going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of FX Y: The Last Man. Today we're talking episode 4, which is titled Karen and Benji, an episode in which we get more of the world building and we meet a new group of women led by Roxanne. We're breaking it all down here in this spoiler review, but before we dive into it, check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you enjoyed this spoiler review, well, make sure to like and share this review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, once you've seen this 4th episode, because we're talking spoilers, let me know your pros, your cons of this episode. What were some of your favorite moments? And of course, your thoughts and theories in regards to Hero now being paired with Roxanne. Are we looking at a beef between brother and sister when they inevitably cross paths again? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So first and foremost, for every single one of you all that watch my reviews of episodes 1 through 3, I appreciate every single one of you all. I've read all the comments, and let's just say this show was a pretty mixed bag. There were people that were like me, that felt like the show had some good foundation. I can see the potential of the show, but it didn't blow me away from the first 3 episodes. There were other people that were not the biggest fans for good reasons. So, right, the pacing was off. They weren't big fans of Yorick and the lead character and some of the other characters. And then there were the other people that just feel like the show has an agenda. It's woke, even though this novel came out almost 20 years ago. But there's those people, and to each their own, whatever the case may be. But we're here talking about this 4th episode because I'm a big sci-fi fan. I do appreciate a good sci-fi story. Like I mentioned in that last week's review, everyone that I know that has read this graphic novel has nothing but great things to say about it. So I'm assuming that we're just, it's a little bit of a slower pace, but there are good things about this episode, and I really enjoyed this episode, if I'm being honest with you all. I want to talk about it here in a bit, but again, let me know your pros and cons and where you are at right now with this 4th episode and 4 episodes in. Are you really invested, or are you kind of falling off? Let's talk about it in the comment section. But let's break it all down as we open up with Agent 355, as she is having this dream about her being in this kind of musical piece in regards to a chance of love, and we see that she's sleepwalking, which I guess is a normal thing for her, and she almost falls off a cliff, but she wakes herself up. But to me, this opening sequence, is that her past life? Is this a life that she wants to have? Did she have a love that she was once in before she got into the secret operative group? And is this something that she wants in the future, to kind of have that chance to just have a normal life? I don't know. I think that's either foreshadowing or it's her past that we might address as further episodes go along. Let me know your thoughts on that opening sequence. But time to catch up with our main character, Yorick, who is trying to pry information from Agent 355, but besides her telling him that she used to work, or she served in Iraq, she's pretty much a closed book after that. And she wants to keep a low profile in Boston. And right now, these two characters, you can kind of see the trajectory if you've seen enough sci-fi action films or even comedy films where you have that one badass character and the one character that really can't fend for themselves. As their journey to Boston, as their journey to finding Beth, they're going to inevitably become really good friends. And maybe, Yorick's going to pick up some skills to learn to fend for himself. But this is kind of, we've seen this before, but it'll be interesting to see their development of their friendship. And I hope it's just friendship. I hope it's not a romance thing between the two, because I don't think that those two characters really need to have that type of storyline. I think Beth, obviously he's in love with her, and again, maybe 355 has someone she's in love with, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. But let's catch up with Hero and Sam, who find this empty house with a car in it, and they decide to stay at night. And this is where we continue to get the backstory from Hero, that her and her mom, Jennifer, who, by the way, we didn't get, Diane Lane in this episode, and none of the political stuff that we got in episodes 1 through 3, but we can see that there's a big beef between two characters, and that she intentionally messes up the car that way that her and Sam can't make their way to DC. So that just kind of goes to show you this kind of hatred. But, well, I don't think Jennifer hates Hero. I think that it's the way that it seems like she raised them. She was very strict. She obviously she's a senator. She's trying to be the president. So we've seen those type of stories and hear of real life stories where people of power, whether it be in the political landscape, whether it be religious backgrounds, when they have children, they want their kids to play by the rules. And it sounds like once Hero got out of the house, she kind of broke away from her family and in particular had some kind of resentment towards the way her mom raised her. So when they meet each other for the first time, if they do, that would be a pretty dynamic scene. But back to Hero and Sam as they come across characters that we met from episode 1 and 3, Nora and her daughter, as we see Hero invites them to stay over. And I'm not sure what the show's doing with Nora. Again, I didn't read the graphic novel, but she seems to be just kind of a character floating around in the background, really doesn't have a lot to the add to the story, but I would imagine she's one of those characters that in a show like this, which was giving me a lot of Walking Dead vibes, she's that character that's just kind of in the background, but inevitably will make her story a little bit more pivotal. I don't know if things are going to work out for her daughter. I think her name is Mackenzie. I think that's going to be like the end point where she's going to lose her humanity and maybe she'll become like a super badass character. But right now she's just kind of, like I said, floating in the background for me personally. But let's check back in with Yorick and 355 as they come across this market trying to exchange a generator that they got from the chopper that 355, took out last week. And she also has a grenade in exchange for a motorcycle. And this is where Yorick, again, those characters that, again, can't fend for themselves, but yet they're wandering around. But he did think he saw Beth, which I think that's going to be a really interesting thing when we ever catch up with Beth, which I believe we will. She's going to either A, be a part of this group that it's going to hate Yorick, or she's going to be a leader, or I'm really intrigued to see when we see Beth again. I would imagine she's not dead, but I imagine when we see those two characters on screen together, it's going to be a much different dynamic than when we saw them last when they broke up in episode 1. But Yorick at this point, he's down in the kind of area which is restricted, and the police, the women police that are there, start to, "Who are you? Take off your mask." And then he takes off his mask and he says that he's going through a transition. He's similar to Sam's character. Obviously we know he's a male and he's not a transgender, but he's using that as a way to, like, don't hurt me, don't kill me, whatever the case may be. And this is where, I'm not going to lie, if I do have some flaws in this episode, choreography-wise, that action, if we want to call it action, was a little bit clumsy to me. And I know it's meant to be clumsy because, again, none of these characters so far, besides 355, none of them are necessarily trained FBI police officers. I assume these are just the women policing the situation and not necessarily having training. So I know that they're not going to be the best hand-to-hand combat. But it was just the way it was shot and the way it was kind of choreographed. This felt very clumsy to me, in my personal opinion. But we see, 355 comes in, beats him up. They get on the motorcycle and she saves them. Again, I thought that seems a little bit clunky, but we have a moment for them to have this kind of verbal argument between the two characters as she brings up that Yorick's been privileged, white privilege his whole life, and now he has the opportunity to be the most important person in the world. He's kind of taking that for granted and not listening to the orders that she's given him because, yes, she has been trained, Yorick, so listen to her orders, and we know, he hasn't so far, but he goes back at her with his rebuttal saying that, well, every time we come into an issue, you can't go straight Rambo and start killing people or hurting people, because he even reveals he knows that she killed those pilots. I mean, it was pretty obvious the way she set it up with them being in front of them, and then obviously them being in the pilots in the aircraft by themselves. So even though he's playing to that character where he might not notice things, but it's showing you that he does pay attention. He kind of knows what's going on. He doesn't know everything, but he kind of knew what was going on in that situation. But again, I thought that fight sequence and then this argument was a little bit uneventful for my personal taste. But hopefully, as the episodes go on, as Yorick starts to listen to her and maybe learn some things from her, we get more of that meatiness from those type of scenes that I thought was missing in these two back-to-back scenes. But we go to Hero, who is lying to Nora about their names, saying that they are Karen and Benji, which is the name of this episode. Norris comes across the group of horsewomen, and I can't, let me go back to this moment where we see Sam and Hero making out, which I don't know, they really didn't establish that it was this type of, attraction from the two characters. It'll be interesting to see that moving forward, but I always just assumed they were just really good friends, but clearly Hero was really into Sam, and I think Sam is the same way, so it'll be interesting to follow that storyline. But meanwhile, the women with the horses are there with their guns. They take them to the back, and this is obviously their property. They check and take their supplies, and they're about to kill them, but then Nora smartly brings up that, we have Hero, or Karen. She's a doctor. Look what she did to my daughter. We can help this friend of yours that you're mentioning that needs help. And I assume that their friend was going to be the person that got shot earlier in the episode at the market, which I'm pretty sure that's the same girl that was shot accidentally by that clumsy action scene. But we see Yorick in 355 starting to develop more of a kind of understanding of one another as he does a magic trick, and they're starting to become a little bit more understanding of each other's situation. And, you know, I guess it took was a magic trick, because at this point, 355 is like, once we get you to the doctor and figure all that out, I'm going to help you find your girlfriend. So I guess he should have just gave her a magic trick to from the get-go for they can be friends. But again, like I said, this episode really focuses on the friendships, the bondships, the alliances, because as we probably go further, we're going to want to care for these characters. We're going to want to have these more quieter moments. So when shit hits the fan, we can go back to, oh, you remember when they were playing cards, and remember that 355 and Yorick had that bond. So I think this is a scene that we're going to look back on and say, maybe that was the moment when they really understood each other and really want to, become friends and figure this thing out on why the rest of the men died except for Yorick. So back to Hero, who we meet this Roxanne character. She arrives and she's cold-blooded. She kills the girl that was shot in the arm because her life, she wasn't going to survive. So she takes her out, and her friend calls her. You treated her like a dog. And again, Roxanne is very cold-blooded, but she wants to help. At this point, she's showing, like, again, it reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead, like not a Negan per se, but like maybe even like a governor type of villain, where like they're showing you their good side, but deep down they have like a dark side. And maybe she was abused in her maybe she was married, her husband beat her, and now she has the opportunity to kind of speak her own voice, be the badass that she always has, but she's been pressed down by this relationship. Again, I'm just assuming or just theorizing that maybe that's why she's so cold-hearted, because she now has the opportunity to be the badass that she's always wanted to be. But nonetheless, she's welcoming them in. She wants them to stay until at least Mackenzie recovers, which, again, I don't know if that girl's going to recover or not, but we'll see. It not even recover from her wound that she got in episode 2 or 3, but I think she's going to something's going to happen to her, and that's going to be like Nora's path to becoming someone that we haven't seen quite yet, and being really like losing her humanity once she loses everyone in her family at that point. So I guess, we should fear Roxanne based on this episode, and it sets up, I think, as we wrap up the episode, there's a bunch of supplies, and that, this is all set up. And I believe what they're setting up so far is, as we see that Nora knows who Karen is, she says, don't tell them who your mother is. I'm thinking the way that this episode is setting up is that Nora, Sam, as well as Hero are going to partner up and really get close to Roxanne and this kind of fraction. And this is planting the seed that we're going to probably meet different groups of women. Some that are going to be more loving and more open to letting people in. Some are going to be more ruthless and killing people. But I believe that Hero is going to get really close to this situation, knowing that in this episode, that group encountered Yorick and 355, and it's going to be that hatred. So when they see each other again, they're going to be like, that's your brother, and then it's going to be like a whole conflict, and we're going to have to see Hero choose Roxanne and that group and Sam, or go on with her brother to get back to Boston and her mom. So that's going to probably be the conflict a little bit later on. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now as we wrap up the episode. But overall, like I said, wasn't a ton of like big stuff that were revealed. We still don't have any hint of a clue or of the cure. We're still on our way to Boston. But I think when we're going to look back, 3, 4 episodes, season 2 down the road, we're going to go back to this episode and say this was when the show started to build out the world. This is when we introduced Roxanne. This is when we first meet the situation at hand. And then we're going to probably say, okay, this is something to set the foundation. So again, there were some clumsy action sequences. There were some slow moments in the episode. But overall, I like the world building. I like that they're building these characters, to build these alliances for us as an audience to care for these characters. So once things go bad, we can feel that emotion. So overall, solid episode. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, your pros, your cons, your thoughts, your theories on the weeks ahead, and let's talk about it in the comments. I appreciate you all for watching this video. Before you leave, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope you all are having a great day. As you can see on the screen now, make sure to subscribe, check out my other videos, and we'll see you all on the next one.